You're a liar. You don't want to be going with her. She sleeps with older men. I don't know why she doesn't just eat. Well, it's kind of funny, really, because, the stage at where you're at such a young age, it's kind of like you've been living the life of like a 40-year-old mistress. No one's going to believe you. Well, I tell you what, if you tell anyone, I'm going to petrol bomb your house and I'm going to kill your little sister. Fast forward 10, 15, actually closer to 20 years when I think about it. I love the way in which you tell your story, the way that you've survived and thrived. It's just truly remarkable. You're very passionate. You're really passionate about your work. I'm proud of you, Bab. You've been pivotal. Thank you for hearing my story. It really means a lot. 2 sets of statements, 2 completely different chapters of my lifetime. Those first set of statements were made to me by members of my family, my friends, and professionals that worked with me as a young person, and also by the man that groomed and sexually exploited me from the 14 years of age. Those second set of statements, they were made by my family, by my friends, by professionals that I now work with, and also the people that I have the pleasure of working with on a daily basis through the work that I do with my social enterprise. So how did I go from a victim of child sexual exploitation on a path of self-destruction where I lived with an eating disorder for a number of years, to the point where doctors told me that if I carried on choosing to behave the way that I did, that I'd be lucky if I had 6 months left to live. And on that very same day of receiving that phone call in my hospital bed, my dad brought my daughter to the hospital to visit me, and she didn't recognise who I was. How did I go from that person to standing here now in front of you, delivering a TEDx talk as a successful social entrepreneur that's living a healthier and happier life, and more importantly, creating real life change for those that live within my local community? Well, that change has happened for a number of reasons, really. A lot of external reasons, but really that seed of change has to come from within. And for me, it was all about learning the process and the concept of feeling safe, but more importantly, the value of my right to feel safe. And I learned to do that by practicing something called the Protective Behaviours Process. And I think one of the things that I realised is that when I had a moment was that throughout, prior to my disclosure as a young person, I was on no one's radar. I was a young person that was being sexually exploited, that was unseen and unheard. And prior to my disclosure, as I said, I was on no one's radar. But after that, following the amount of intervention, professional intervention that I had, and believe me, it was a hell of a lot. I had to go to several different agencies. I was assessed to see where my mental state was at, being assessed if I had a personality disorder and all the rest of it, when really I was a victim of trauma. But throughout that intervention, not one person asked me, do you feel safe? The prevention was all around me being safe and keeping me safe, but not how safe I actually felt. Because there's a difference between being safe and feeling safe. And feeling unsafe is part of everyday life. The element of fear does not discriminate anyone. And it's also important for me to iterate that feeling unsafe is not about being a victim. It's about being human. For example, being safe is when we are not at risk of harm or danger. Feeling safe is when we don't anticipate that feeling of harm or danger, even emotionally or physically. So it could be with an element of growth. It could be the threat that I got. It could be standing here right now, absolutely bricking it, doing a TED talk, but hey-ho. But that's my point. Going through life feeling safe all the time is impossible. So that job, that ideal job that we've been wanting to go for, and we've finally landed that opportunity, and we go to that job interview, or whatever it is, I know that physically I'm safe. I'm probably at very minimum risk of being exposed to any harm or danger, but I'm sure as hell going to be feeling unsafe. I'm going to be feeling those early warning signs. I'm going to have butterflies in my tummy. I'm going to be shaking a little bit. And anything else that comes in between. And that's what we call, as part of the Protective Behaviours Process, our early warning signs. And our early warning signs is how our body physically responds to when we feel fear, to when we sense danger. And they can come, as I said, how our body physically responds. But it's also some of those things that people might say to themselves, I've just got that gut feeling. Something just doesn't feel right. And I think it's really important that we are educated around our early warning signs and about how our body physically reacts to a sense of danger, because what might feel safe to me might not feel safe to you, and vice versa. The element of safety is on a continuum. And so, it's evolved. The elements of fear, the elements of our risks have evolved. Thousands of years ago, the world was a completely different place. We had saber-toothed tigers or crazy weather conditions or whatever it was that really exposed that element of danger. So our early warning signs were there consistently in order for us to survive. That's what they're there for. Only now, our risks of danger can come in the form of someone that we love and someone that we trust. So how can someone keep themselves feeling safe? Well, like I said, it's impossible to feel safe all the time. But one of the things that I've learned is that when I do feel those early warning signs, or when I do feel unsafe, I ask myself 3 simple questions. Do I have an element of choice? Do I have an element of control? And have I got a concept of time? Because no one likes to be in an unsafe situation when they don't know how long it's going to last for. I know I've only got 18 minutes on this stage, so that's all right. It's all over and done with then. So, but that leads me on into why the element of feeling safe and the value of feeling safe is so important. Because I'd realised that for many years, throughout that path of self-destruction and choosing to behave the way that I did, whether it be taking drugs, whether it be being in unhealthy relationships. I was pregnant at 18 with the baby's dad locked up in jail, a victim of CSE with an eating disorder, To most people, I was a write-off, but now I'm standing here. Yeah? And for me, that was because these tools and these strategies that I learned through the Protective Behaviours Process has allowed me to grow, and it's allowed me to be responsible for myself, but also towards others. So the Protective Behaviours Process has been around since the 1970s. It was created by a wonderful woman called Peg West. And it is a very simple, grounded set of strategies and tools that enables us to value our right to feel safe, but also uphold the right of others to feel safe all the time as well. Learning this process has enabled me to connect with my inner self. It's enabled me to self-regulate. It's enabled me to communicate more effectively about how I feel, about how I think, about how I might choose to behave. It's enabled me to communicate with people. It's enabled me to grow. It's enabled me to protectively interrupt when I need to. And sometimes that might mean, I'm not going to go there because it's too risky. Sometimes that might be creating my own boundaries with the people that I love. A quote, and those of you that know me know that I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, by Albus Dumbledore. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to your enemies, but it takes just as much courage to stand up to your friends. And it sure as hell does. So I think for me, moving forward, how has this beautiful process helped me change my life and also helped me change the life of others? And I'm not going to stand here and take credit for the real life changes that people that have walked through my doors. I'm not going to take credit for the change that they've made because, again, that comes from within them. But I'm very proud to stand here and say that I have had the privilege of creating real life change, whether it be training hundreds of professionals that sometimes actually double take when I walk into a room and they see that I'm the trainer. I don't know, maybe it's because I look quite youthful, I don't know. But they do. I've had people make comments saying, I hope our trainer's got enough relevant experience. Yeah, okay. And before, I used to, beat myself down about that a bit, but now I just take it in my stride. But also, it's not just the training. For me, it's about the frontline work. I've managed to create a range of different programs and services that are all underpinned by the principles and practices of the Protective Behaviours Process. And it's so universal. I've worked with individuals from the age range of 5 years of age, right up to my eldest service user being 65 years of age. And that service user in question, I'll never forget when she came into my training course and she said, "What are you going to teach me about feeling confident or feeling safe?" And I'm like, well, I don't know, but let's give it a go, yeah? That same lady, after completing her course and spending several months together, called me a couple of months after the course, Stacey, I've just got to tell you, my sister that I was telling you about, bullied me all my life. I finally stood up to her. Thank you. You ain't got to thank me. You did that. But what she's thanking me for is for the skills that she learned throughout her time, throughout working with my organisation. We support the most vulnerable people within our communities. And some of the stories, it just brings me to tears to share with some of the experiences that my young people that I work with have gone through. They are at risk or have permanently been excluded, the majority of them, from mainstream education. Those same courses that I deliver with those young people, I've delivered in a women's prison. I've delivered in women's refuges. I've delivered in a local community cafe. Same concept, same set of principles, changing people's lives. This little beaut is Thea. And Thea is my niece. And a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure of watching this little one hatch into the world. And what an experience that was. And I'm not normally one for taking pictures and all the rest of it. I'm not on that vibe. But this picture, Thea is literally minutes old here. And this, for me, is where that child felt her first sense of feeling safe. When she was born, she was crying and wailing, and we want that, that's good, we want that. But as soon as they placed her on my sister's chest, she settled. She was safe. What Protective Behaviours has taught me is that we are only responsible for ourselves, and we are responsible to other people. And I think for me, that was a great weight. As a survivor of child sexual exploitation, I've come to realise that I'm not responsible for that man choosing to abuse me. He is. However, I am responsible for how I move forward and how I become responsible to others. So I think the message that I'd like to leave with you today is, imagine a world where a child of a future, just like this beautiful child that you see before you, can grow up in a world, a violent-free world, where everyone values their own right to feel safe, but also upholds the right to others to feel safe, because we all have the right to feel safe all the time. Thank you.